Good afternoon. So first, I think we just need to take one more moment to thank and recognize all of the family and professors and friends and our support systems both here and at home. So let's take that moment now. And speaking of wonderful people, last year I was privileged enough to be part of a group of friends united by a communal appreciation for the daytime television show Jeopardy! Now, fortunately for me, an Augustana sophomore took to the podium for college Jeopardy! This year, so hopefully now this speech will resonate with more than 4 of you. But last year, whenever I could, I would join my much more dedicated residence hall staff for a viewing during which we could usually get about 10 questions right. And I say questions because, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Jeopardy!, the answers are provided first, and contestants then get points for asking the corresponding questions. For instance, if the answer was Sarah Kocher, you might be prompted to say, "Who is that random girl someone let speak at graduation?" Now, there are a lot of life lessons to learn from Jeopardy!, and for your listening pleasure, I have critically analyzed the daytime television show aimed at adults over 60 to provide you with this nugget of wisdom. The biggest lesson to learn from Jeopardy! Is one that we should really focus on today of all days as a guiding thoughts for the next step we take as we leave Augustana University. There is something about Jeopardy!'s questions as answers formatting that is comforting, and I think it's the fact that in Jeopardy! It's okay, better even, to have questions rather than answers. It can be so unnerving, for example, to be expected to say, "I'm getting a job next year," and to feel, conversely, that it's inappropriate to say, "What am I doing next year?" Somehow along the course of this past year, I think that many of us, myself included, have started believing that education is about finding answers instead of asking questions. We've spent a year, some even more, planning to finish our higher education with a definitive answer, or a life thesis, if you will, that we can use as a secure base from which to launch our next adventures. And I think that some of our attachment to education as an answer to questions comes from the feeling that all questions inherently need answers, that unanswered questions about ourselves or our lives leave us without resolution, without any sense of identity, and therefore without peace. I've spent 4 years of a journalism degree battling this inbred aversion to questions. Jeopardy! And journalism have both allowed me to begin rejecting our understanding of questions as inherently nefarious and frightening. In their purest form, questions are asked to ascertain truths. And if this year has taught me anything, it's that it's still okay to be discovering these truths. Truths that answer questions like, "What am I going to wear today?" and "Is this cheese still good to eat?" and "Why did Fred Weasley have to die in the 7th Harry Potter book?" But also truths like, who can I count on? And what can I learn from this? And where do I want my life to be going? And who am I really? Don't get me wrong, I still believe in answers. We can't ignore their purpose or their value. But we always need to ask the questions first. This is where life and Jeopardy! Begin to distinguish themselves. In some ways, our questions will all be answered as we continue to live and explore. And if not, well, we'll die eventually anyway, and then we won't have to worry about it. But again, we must start by embracing the question, and then embracing what it means to explore that fully, savoring the potential and the opportunity that it presents. Because when we open ourselves up to ask beautiful questions, we open ourselves up for beautiful answers. I'm reminded in this moment of Google Poetics. If you're unaware, Google Poetics occurs when people type in part of a search phrase and then let Google auto-populate several responses from which to choose, then capturing the top suggestions in a kind of free verse. One of my personal favorites involves the open invitation of the words, "People change." Google has provided us with several beautiful answers, including "People change, feelings change, people change, memories don't, and people change, now I'm a lamp." These are answers that, had we not left our search open-ended, we never would have uncovered. Similarly, some of the most humbling experiences that I've ever had have come from asking a question whose answer I never could have expected. At this year's scholarship luncheon, I rather presumptuously asked a funeral home director and donor if he had already planned his own funeral. And his response deeply impacted the way that I think about death, my loved ones, religion, and the future. And don't worry, Augustana, he is still a donor. One of the other most beautiful questions we can ever pose is simply a request for help. When we ask for help, we open ourselves up to relationships that we never would have discovered had we not admitted that we do not, in fact, have it together all of the time. Our lives are enriched by the people that we let in, and questions double as invitations. Friends, let's not forget what our education has really been about all along: learning to ask the right questions. The question in all of our minds right now is, what in the world comes next? And let's embrace that too, lest we forget that this is also an incredibly beautiful question. And if we lose sight of this along the way, don't forget that there is one place we can always turn: Google. Their motto, after all, is search on, and if it works for Google, it can work for us too. And if we're learning from Google and a liberal arts education, we can easily see that a question can take us anywhere. So the next time someone says, "Tell me what your future looks like for you," plan on simply responding, "What is a glorious and promising future, Alex?" Because that is a question we get to spend our whole lives trying to answer. Thank you.